Okay, so in the announcements that were posted 2 days ago, in the announcements, it talks about the wall detail. The handouts that I gave to the class today, one looks like this, and the other one looks just like this, are in the announcements. These are from 2 different code years, okay? So what that means is codes change every 4 years, and we're gonna make a couple marks on these right now. So one says typical wall section, and the other says just simply says wall section, okay? Real creative naming there, okay? So if you would, we're gonna make a couple of changes on here. The wall section one, the insulation up in the roof is correct. It's an R42. So it says on there, R42 blown in insulation typical. So find that note. It's like 1, 2, 3, fourth one down from the top. You see that one right down here? Okay. So that is the insulation that's in the current code. I'll have to make a new one of these in February. In February, the state legislation is going to meet, and one of the items they're going to discuss is adopting the 2020 building code. They'll be adopting it in 2021. And that's how it works. It's just how the way the cycles of state governments work. The code is written in 2021, but it's not adopted until 2020, but it's not adopted until 2021. So it's just how it works, because we have projects that are usually in the middle of the construction, and to kind of avoid some of that conflict, we wait until legislative sessions of the new year, okay? Now, what the state can do is they have basically 3 main options. They can adopt the building code as it is. They can add to the building code to make it more restrictive. California does this every year. There is not a national earthquake code. California adds an earthquake code to their building code. Okay, now we do have earthquake requirements in the building code, but California goes above and beyond, maybe because of the regularity of their earthquakes. Alaska also does that. Alaska has a 2.5 or above every day. So if you're up in Alaska or been up there, Anchorage sits at the base of a very large volcano. So yay, we were at California. Utah does not add to that, but we do build to the highest requirements for earthquakes. And there are some companies in Utah that go a little bit above and beyond, but it's not required for us in housing. The other thing they can do is they can take things out of the building code and say, we're not going to do that. The one thing that they have been doing for the last 3 codes is removing the requirement that a house have fire sprinkler systems in place. We're crossing our fingers that they continue to remove that portion. What that does, and that's like these little sprinklers in the room here, that's a very large expense for a homeowner and would put housing out of purchase value. We wouldn't be able to purchase homes if we had to do that. They're just too expensive. California is requiring that this year. And if you've been watching the news, we see people leaving California by the thousands and companies leaving. One, their taxes are like 28% of your income goes to taxes now, which is pretty, it seems high. It's a lot. They're really high. And you're required to have your homes built better, or differently. So it's just a lot of expense. Okay, we're going to do another change on these forms. So in the stud walls, it calls out that there's an R13 batt insulation on the wall section sheet. That is incorrect, which is sad. You need an R26 there, okay? An R26. So if you just make that change on that. It doesn't change a whole lot because this is a 2x4 wall that you're looking at, and we're using 2x6. So it's not going to be that big of a deal, okay? So those are the 2 things. Now, the reason I gave you these handouts is the notes on these you're going to need to add to the wall section for your house. And so you have all that on there. So I'm going to give you how that's going to kind of look on there. So you have your insulation in there. You have to kind of go through each of your houses. If you're using, as you read the notes, it talks about, like for instance, double 2x4 plate by continuous. Yours will be a double 2x6 plate by continuous because your walls are 2x6 walls. Okay, so as you go through, we need to go through all of these. Is that what we're gonna do? Would that help? Okay, so I'm gonna work on the wall section sheet first, and we'll just kind of work down through here. So I'm starting at the top. The first note there starts with GAF Timberline shingles or 15-pound asphalt felt on. That's on, not or. Sorry, my bad. You can just put that and change that to match what it says on the typical wall section, which is 235-pound asphalt shingles on 5/8 gypboard. 5/8 CDX. Sorry, I'm reading wrong. Not gypboard. Do not put gypsum board on your roof. Bad idea. 5/8 CDX plywood sheathing. Okay, that's the one that's on. So circle the one on the typical wall section for that note. Okay, the wall section sheet calls out for 7/16 where they use 5/8. Okay, and this calls it out 7/16 APA rated OSB sheathing with H clips and all unsupported edges, where they use the 5/8 gypboard or 5/8 plywood. I keep saying gypboard. It's because I just did a commercial project, and in a commercial building, instead of using 1/2-inch gypboard, it's all 5/8 gypboard, and that's you get a better fire rating. And so I'm just kind of, my mind's caught in the middle. Then on the typical wall section, the pre-engineered 612 FHA approved wood trusses, that 612 is the slope that you put on your roof. So for some of you, that's going to be a 912, some it's going to be a 412, might be a 312. So just circle where it says 6-12. That needs to match what you do on your house. Okay. In fact, I'm probably going to go off this typical wall section more than anything because it's fewer things to write. Make it easier on you. We with me? Okay, so the nail sheathing and to blocking, that note has to be on there. When we put sheathing on a wall or a roof, you have to follow a nail pattern. And for our roof, it's 8 penny nails. That's what that little D means, is 8 penny. Traditionally, that means you get 8 nails for a penny. That's where that came from. It's a weight issue. It's just kind of stuck. But you need to have them at 6 inches on center around the entire perimeter of that sheet of sheathing. Then we have the engineering pre-approved wood trusses, 24 inches on center. Then you've got a double starter course. That is for your ice guard on your roof line for your shingles. There's aluminum gutter. I'm not going to make you draw the gutter. Okay, we're not putting gutters in our houses, but we will note that there'll be gutter. So on the aluminum gutter note, you're going to put just put the word. This is how you're going to write it. You put the word note : aluminum gutter over all entries. Just put that note, and that covers it all. Do not point to anything. Don't put an arrow on it. Just say note aluminum gutter at all entries. We're back to our 2x4. That 2x4 needs to be changed to just scratch out the 4 and leave it 2x blocking, 2x truss blocking with vent holes on there. The fascia, again, just make that a 2x fascia. We'll talk about that as we build it. Okay, so the fascia is what the gutter is attached to. And for some of you, that will be a 2x4, so it'll be a 2x10. So just put 2x fascia, F-A-C-I-A. The 2x6 top plate's good. If you're using brick or stone, then that angle iron, that says 3 by 3 by 1/4 angle iron, that's up above your windows to keep because they're just floating there. So you have to put an angle iron there. It's an L-shaped piece, and the brick sits on it. You need that, or your bricks fall. Okay. If you're not using brick or stone, just leave that note off. Okay, you don't need that for stucco or siding. The bad insulation, we talked about that already. The 1/2-inch CDS plywood is our sheathing on the outside of our walls. We've already done that. 2x6. Brick veneer, if you're doing brick, if you're not using brick or stone, take the brick veneer off. And if you're using stone, change the word brick to stone. Okay. For both, it'll be a 2x6 treated sill plate with the anchor bolts. Looking see what else we need to change on here. Then the flooring on the opposite side, coming up from the bottom, it says a 2x10 joist. You're going to use, you just call that out, 11 7/8 TJIs is what you put there. So 11 7/8 TJI, and then your spacing. Now, so most of you are at 16 inches on center. So you just change out the floor joist to TJI. Okay, and that's what that BCI floor joist equivalency is. That's on there. So you could, yeah, just do it that way. We talked about that insulation, the flooring insulation and the roof insulation are the same. Now, if your basement's finished, you don't need insulation in the floor. If your basement's unfinished, you do. Okay. Then we have our vinyl window. I use vinyl windows because they're kind of medium grade cost-wise. So windows come in 3 types. There's aluminum, which are your cheap ones. Then there's vinyl, and then there's solid wood. The solid wood ones are the most expensive, but they also have a lot of maintenance. You have to paint them or stain them every 3 years, and vinyl you don't. So I use a lot of vinyl windows. And then everything else should be the same. So if you'll go off of that, now if you have other conditions, use the wall section one as a reference to see what you might need to add in there. Okay, so these are reference sheets. I didn't get you yours. Here you go. Just for you, special delivery. All righty, you guys ready for a very long, boring process? It's actually not too boring. It's kind of fun. It's going to take us back to what we were doing in AutoCAD that very first week. We're going to be drawing some 2-dimensional lines. Whoa, it all comes full circle, which is kind of cool. But this is where you start to show your worth and where you start making big bucks. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our first floor. This is why I had you open up your old one. Okay. Because it'll be a little different, but it'll update as we go, okay? And we're not gonna get all the way down to your basement today. Okay, so you should have on your drawing a horizontal and a vertical section cut, okay? You need to have those two. Now, technically, after today, don't move them, but I know some of you aren't there yet, okay? And so you might have to redo a little bit about what we're doing today because we're gonna shift things around. So be cautious with what you're doing because we're now going to start cross-referencing everything together. Okay, so this is kind of a big deal. And I know you're going, but I've been gone for 2 weeks. I know, but I've got to move forward because we've only got this week and next week and then Christmas. Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. It's like, are you kidding me? So, which is why you saw on Sunday night dates changing drastically on due dates. I thought we had until the 22nd, which is traditional Christmas break. This district gave you 2 weeks instead of a week and a half. And it threw everything off. So I had to change some due dates. So that's why that happened. And then they changed your midterm grade to being this Friday instead of last Friday. And so now more grades are going on. Do your best, and I will do my best to make your grades as nice as I can make them. So it's gonna be a little crazy. The question came up before class about the career day thing. If it's the documents that you have to fill out, like the application, if you don't want to be involved with that, just put in the text box, I'm not interested. You do have to review the video on the career. You do have to look up what careers are out there and what you need to get to those careers. Even if you don't go to Weber State, the process is pretty much the same at any university you decide to go to. I'm just using Weber's website because it's all there, and I don't have to go and put in 15 different website links to get there, or have you make an account with Workforce Services in Utah to find that information. Because if you haven't figured it out, Utah Futures is what I usually use, is dead. It's gone. And that was the best resource I had as far as career exploration, but they stopped paying for it. So for 15 years, I've used that site, and they decided not to fund it. I love the government. It's so great. So yeah, Utah Futures is kind of a good deal. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to use my vertical section for this. You can use the horizontal section. We're just going to use one. All I need you to do is go into one of your section cuts. Woohoo! Look at that pretty building. Look at how much is not done on the second floor. Oh my. Okay. Now, what this is, a building section. This is just the view. It is not the part that I print off the contractor. This is where I work. Okay. So on this view, we do have a box that goes around it. If you click on that box, you can increase the size. Oh, good. There's the top of my roof. It's good to know I have one. Okay. I'm not quite sure what is going on with these walls, though. So I'm going to take that to, it should be there. Huh, that's interesting. There we go. For some reason, they got attached to the roof. So I'm just going to detach them from the roof. Apparently, I did it a lot. Okay. Anyway, that will work for what I need. So in this section view, we have all the information we need for the height over here on the side. For some of you that do not have basements, you've got all this down here you don't need. And some of you who don't have the garage in this view have all this that you don't need. Okay, well, that's fine. It's just there. We're going to create our wall section for when you use the house. And what I want you to find a wall on your section that goes from your uppermost level down to your bottommost one. Now, you'll have to just kind of assume that right now, okay? Yeah. Now, I'm not going to dimension the porch and all that. I just want the dang wall. And none of these really seem to be doing me any favors.
Should be an exterior wall?
It needs to be an exterior wall, yes. So I'm going to go back to my first floor. I'm actually going to shift this because I am not seeing, I want this wall here is what I really want. But I'm just going to move this over and I'm going to stretch it down through the garage. I'm going to adjust my view depth here and here because I don't need to go out the yard. So I'm just going to shift by, mainly because I want to get to where I have a wall. Oh man, that's even worse. That don't tell me any favors. I need to finish my job is what I need to do. That'd be a good idea. So I've got this wall right here. I'm all the way at the top, coming all the way down to the bottom. So I'm gonna use this one. Whew, so basically what it is, I have to shift it to find where everything lined up so I could see what I need to see. And so I've got all this going up here. Part of my roof I can't see because it's beyond my view, and that's fine. I'm not trying to show everything. But now I'm ready to make a view of this, or a call out of this. So a couple things we need to look at. We're going to look at the browser a lot. So make sure you get to the browser and to the properties. We've got to do a lot of manipulating here for this. So in your browser, if you scroll down, you'll find an area where it says sections. And you should have section 1 and section 2. Section 2, or whatever section's open right now, will be bold, so you know which one you're in. I'm in section 2. I'm going to then go into the View tab at the top. Da, 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 da. And I'm going to find that right next to the section option is a call out. And the call out, if you hit the down arrow, has two options. It has a rectangle and it has a sketch, whatever shape you want. We're just going to do the rectangle. We're going to try and keep this as simple as we possibly can, which is, yeah. So we're going to try it. So I click on the rectangle, and really I'm just going to draw a rectangle around that wall. Just like that. Okay. Don't worry about the fact it doesn't have anything in there. It's just a reference. If you look now at where your section is, there's now a section 1 or 2 hyphen call out 1. That's what you just created. Okay, bam, just that quick. You made a whole new working view. And where working view means you can add things to it, and it's in effect all the drawings. Everything's being cross-referenced. Question?
How do you make that rectangle?
Okay, we go into View tab, Call Out, and the rectangle option. Okay. Everybody good there? Okay. Now, obviously, this wall, this section of my house, is by no means detailed. It's not all dressed up. And in fact, there's things in there that need fixed for all of us. And there's things there that haven't finished. But you can keep adding. So if you haven't put the flooring on your second floor yet, you can still do it. It'll just update these views as you go. So don't freak out that, oh, I'm not done. That's okay. He doesn't have a basement. I got to fix that in a few minutes here. And so for those of you who worked at home and had to switch versions and stuff, we've got to merge these puppy dogs back together. It's just fine. It's just extra work. No big deal. We like it. Okay. All right. Now we've got this created. We're now going to go down to our browser again. I'm going to scroll down even further. You're going to get down to where the sheets are loaded. And as you go down there, about sheet A8 and sheet A9, that's where you're looking. Those are our building sections. So let's go, I'm going to go to sheet 9. You guys go to sheet 8, okay? The reason I'm doing that is I've already done this yesterday, and I didn't want to erase and do it all over again. It's kind of like not moving forward. It feels very COVID. That's be the new verb for this decade. That's so COVID of you. You watch. It's going to become a thing. Yeah. Building section. So I'm going to go, when you open it up, it's going to be blank. Whatever you open, A or 8 or 9, you should be an 8. I'm going to be a 9. Okay, that's the only difference. Everything else is the same. It should be a nice, pretty 24 by 36 sheet of paper. Okay, now paper right now is going about $1.50 a square foot. So when you're doing house plans, paper can get kind of pricey. So the idea is we want to maximize the use of our paper. Typically, I get around that by buying it in a roll. The roll paper that I buy is 24 inches wide and 500 feet long. And so it's a lot cheaper. You'll be printing these in January, your full set of house plans. Ready to go to an engineer to be reviewed. Woohoo! Yeah, you guys. Okay. Then you can build it when you're 40.
What happens if he denies plans?
You make the changes they suggest. No engineer will ever deny the plans. They'll make suggestions on what needs to be added, but they don't deny, because if they deny, they can't get paid. There's those little sneaky things about it, right? Okay, I need the building section that you're working on in this sheet. So we've got to go now and scroll back up to where the sections are. And you're going to take whatever section it is that you were looking at, 1 or 2, highlight that and hold your left button down and drag it over and plop it down on the sheet. Ooh, look at that. Boom, place that. There is my building section. Woohoo, look at how pretty that is. Okay, now that's exactly what I have here. But here it's smaller, and here it's full size. So this house is 18 feet tall from the ground up. Over here, it is maybe 12 inches tall from the ground up. So what we have here is a scale, and the scale is found in the title. This is a 1/4 inch equals a foot. So that means every inch is 4 feet for you and I. I look at the drawing and it looks pretty good, and for the most part it is. We'll add a few notes onto this later, some reference notes and details. Obviously it's not finished yet. This is one of the sheets that I did not create for you completely. Let's go, and so you can see what I mean by it. Click on the first floor plan. That one has your floor already in it. So that one I already preset, so it's ready for you to go. However, it does show my sidewalk and my property lines. I don't want that here. I need to clean it up a little bit. But most of these sheets are set to automatically do what you need to do, with the exception of the sections and the elevations. Okay, go back to your section sheet, and you can just click at the top now. So when I click off that, that looks like a really swell drawing. The title down here, you can move it so it's up a little closer to your drawing. But do you guys have a box around your view? How does the contractor then build that wire around your house? That's a little crazy, right? They will try. I know. You'll get a phone call. Hey, you've got this wire thing around your house. How are we doing that? You go, what wire thing are you talking about? Well, it looks kind of like a box. The view window? Is that what that is? I can't tell. It looks like a line to me. So yeah, I don't have that conversation. You feel like an idiot. It's not fun. So a couple things. First, I want to open this up and work on it. I'm going to go back to section 2. And I noticed that I'm cutting off my roof on this side. So I'm going to change the crop size by just pulling this over a little bit so I can see the end of my house. And then I don't want this box anymore. Now, here's your caution. We're going to hide it. But if we hide it, you have to remember that if you're going to change it, you have to unhide it to change it. Okay? That's why we waited so late in the year to do this. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to hide that element. Woohoo, it's gone. Bye. Thanks for playing.
Hide in view.
Just hide in view, yep. Now, that's this view. Go back to your building section now.
Oh, it's gone.
And it's gone. Because what you have here on this sheet, this big black box that's highlighted on the screen right now, is a view to the view. Whoa. Don't think about it too hard, it hurts. You've got a window or a portal from this reality, which is paper size, to the other reality, which is full size. And in the process of doing that, it has a scale that changes it to 1/48 its actual size, because there are 48/4 of an inch in a foot. So that's a 1/48 sized process. Okay, kind of process that a little bit. It's on the state test. Yay, good deal, right? 1/48. Okay, so I'm going to leave this alone right now, but I've still got this box that I made for my wall section. And it's got a circle with what looks like a very sad face, in a way. Cyclops face, okay? So we're going to go and do a new view. This time I want you to go down to your wall sections, right below your building sections. You guys are going to go to sheet A10. I'm going to go to sheet A11. Actually, I could do A10. I'll do A10 as well. Ooh, this is what we did yesterday. Ooh, so we're going to do the same thing today. This is where all the sections of my house are going to go. You need one full wall section from footing to roof to be submitted for building review. If you have special features like canopies or balconies, you need details of those as well. The process for making those is all the same that we're doing now. You make the call out, and my call out here, this is call out section 1, call out 1. For you guys, that's what you're using. So I go back up to where my sections are, find your call out, call out 1. I'm going to do section 2, call out 1. Click it, drag it, and drop it.
Oh, we need to get rid of the box.
We get rid of the box. Yeah, we got to get rid of the box. Okay. Now, the box here is, we're going to do it a little differently this time because I'm now in a view, in a view, in a view. I'm already getting a little lost here, okay? So I'm not going to get in there too deep because we get too deep, we get mired in muck. And muck is not good unless you're a pig. And by the way, pigs do wallow, but not the way you think. Okay? Pigs are really clean animals. Very, very clean animals. My favorite things to raise and eat. That was funny. Okay, so I still have the big black box. Now, this is where you can get yourself in trouble. So be very deliberate about what you do. If I move my cursor inside that box and I double click my left button on my mouse, I'm in the box. Notice everything else is turned to gray. Okay, now I'm going to manipulate. See, there's the box, is the dotted line now. When you float over that, that was the big black box. So I'm inside a view, inside a view. Yeah, I know, it gets a little trippy. If you play Portal, it makes more sense. You just drop through 3 portals worth. Okay. Now, what I want to do in here is I don't need to see quite so much here. So I'm going to click on the box that's solid, and I'm going to get my crop windows. I also have these little squiggles on the sides. You see those guys? Those are cropping or section removes, if you will. They're actually called something different, but I don't remember what they're called. So we'll use those in just a minute. Now that this is selected, we're going to go into our properties. We're going to do a lot of stuff here. And I posted some videos in the same announcements. One that I did with class, and then one that's a YouTube tutorial that's a little less scattered than what I do. I am not a linear speaker. I jump around a lot. So what we're going to look at here is I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to look at down here in event extents. So find the extents, and you'll see the one that says annotation crop. Now what that's doing is where all my heights are right here on the side for my building height, it's cutting those off a little bit. So if you'll just take and remove the check mark from annotation crop, it'll make it easier for you to put the notes that you need to put on this and mark it up. So just remove that check mark. We have the crop view. We're going to move down, and right here where it says far clip setting, right now that's the same as the original section. So section 1 or section 2. That means you're seeing whatever that box is as far out as that box goes. So if you're going through your entire house, I'm seeing the entire house in the background here. So this view is going to show all the wall beyond. Then this is elevation right here. And here's the door. I don't need to see that for this. So we're going to change that same as parent. I want you to change it to independent. And now instead of being 36'11", or whatever your number is, I'm going to change that far clip offset. I'm going to change that to 2 feet. And I'm going to hit apply. Oh, wow, that's a lot easier to see what's going on there. That cleaned up a lot. Your drawing should look a little neater, a little cleaner, a little better off that way. Okay, does that help? You see what's going on there? Okay. Let's see what else we need to change on that. We're good. Now, if you do happen to have deleted your sections and you're now on section 18, because you keep deleting that in, you can rename your call out right here. So you have that. So there's ways to fix those kind of errors. So not a big deal. So in your case, this should be our first section. But I'm just going to go ahead now, and we need to get out of this view. To do that, you just have to get out of it. I like to do this. I like to go all the way out of the sheet and click over here in the area out of the sheet. That way I don't hit another view like this one and go plop into another view. That's an AutoCAD thing from years ago. when we started doing viewports like this, we called it limbo, CAD limbo. You could get in there and never get out. And it was kind of scary when that first came out because you could be drawing in there and it wasn't doing anything. You just were stuck in limbo. And that's a bad place to be. And if you're Catholic, you know more about that than the rest of us do. Are you Catholic? Is that a yes? No? Wow. Do you not? That's the first time. I've never had this is a non-Catholic class. That's crazy. We are not in the Midwest anymore. Cool. All right, so I just click out here. That gets me out of it. Then you can select, go back into your section, and you can now, you don't want to hide it here. You need to see it here. What you've got to do is get in there and get it hidden inside of this. It's a little roundabout game. So I'm actually not going to hide it right now, okay, because I need it for a couple things. But we're going to have to come back in and hide it here to clean it up so it looks nice and pretty. Okay, now what we're going to do here is I'm going to zoom up on this a little bit. I've got my roof coming down in here, and I've actually changed the roof of my house to match what we do in Utah with our framing systems. And one, it makes things a little more straightforward, is what we're doing. And so we're going to go through that process with you guys as well. And to do that, I'm going to go back inside. So just so you know, you got out, we're going to go back in again. I know it's kind of a crazy deal, but I want to be able to select these elements. So jump back in there for a minute. Click on your roof. And most of you probably have the basic roof generic 12-inch system there, right? That's what you guys all ended up with, because I didn't tell you otherwise. Okay, go ahead and hit edit type on that. And we're going to go into the edit the structure so you know what's going on here. Okay, you should see your, do you have finish on yours? I can't remember. Is there shingles on it?
Yeah, it just says structure.
Just says structure. Okay, so your first one, change that to finish 1 right here. Just change that to finish 1. Why not finish 2? Because 1's outside, 1's in, 2's inside. That's typically what we use to keep it straight. Change it to your material. Just type in shingles. There's actually 2 of them in your template that you can choose from. So if we go in here and do shingles, it'll pull up. So you have roofing, asphalt shingles. They're actually the same material, just different names. So just pick one of those, put on your render appearance and hit OK. And make that thickness 1/4 inch. Okay, that's going to include the shingle and the tar paper or the fabric that goes underneath it. Now, if you end up doing something like a slate roof or a tile roof, you may look at about 1/2 inch thick instead. And that's an approximation, but that way we can see that on the detail. Is anyone doing slate?
You told me to do like a rock.
Yeah, yours is slate. So you make yours 1/2 inch. Yeah, I knew somebody, one of the classes, got to keep track of 64 house plans this year. My head hurts already. Okay, then in the plywood sheathing, remember the notes we just went over on the handouts? We're using 5/8. So make that 5/8. A little bit, because we have a little more snow load here. We'll make sure we have a rigid roof. And then the underside, in Utah, when we build our trusses, if you remember when we were doing the roof and I said we're not going to make the trusses, one, it's a lot of extra work and there's somebody else that has to redraw them anyway. But when we build trusses in Utah, typically the top cords and the web members are all 2x4s. In most cases, if it's a small house, they'll do the bottom cord as a 2x4 as well. I usually like to tell them to do a 2x6. One, people hang things from their ceilings, and having that little bit of extra strength kind of helps. But we're going to make this, the structure here. So you have your plywood sheeting at 5/8, another structure, soft lumber at 3.5. Okay, then just hit OK. Anybody need more time on that? I'm going trying to go slow. Okay. And then we hit apply, and we hit OK. And now your roof is a lot thinner. Okay, here we go. Now, I've got a roof down here that's actually not going to be connected here. Actually, that's, I don't know what that's, yeah, it is. Got a roof connection here that I've got to deal with. And I've got a roof beyond because I'm right at the point where this corner happens. This part is in elevation. I'm not going to do anything with that, but that's kind of weird looking. That is very weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it out. Oh, crazy. So I click here, and that's just in my case. I'm just going to slide this over a little bit more to here, just so I don't have to deal with so much issue. Okay, so that's, you can crop and do what you need to do there. Okay, let's see. What do we want to start with here? Okay, let's go. We're going to work on this top portion. So what you need is you need how the wall connects to the roof, how the walls connect to the floor if you have a second floor, and how the walls, the floor, and the foundation connect. So these are the areas that we're working in. The stuff in between is not important right now. It is, but we don't want to show that in this detail. That's a separate condition. So we're going to minimize this down to be what we need. So you ready? Is everybody with me? You guys online okay? Happy day. Make sure I don't have anybody hanging out in the, nope. Okay. I keep forgetting to open the chat room, sorry. Okay, so we click on our window again. Whoops, don't get that far. Sorry, I went too far. So see these little squiggle lines? We're going to cut out part of our building, okay? And this is where you be patient. You're going to do a lot of cutting, a lot of fixing for a minute. I'm going to click one, and that's going to remove all of that stuff. So go ahead and do it. Okay, so this whole middle is now hidden. I will bring it back in a minute. So I'm going to come up here and then pull this up just a little bit more. So I just have a nice little wall roof connection. And I can pull this over just a little bit there if I need to. So you can crop and control what you're showing. Okay, any questions on what we just did? Okay, see these little squiggle marks right here in the corners on that line? Every time you click those, it takes out the stuff between them. Okay. Now I need the rest of this wall back. Okay. So I'm going to use this one down here and then stretch him back up. Okay. So he's going to come back up to there, maybe a little higher. So I've got to get this portion back in. So there's my floor, wall, wall. Okay. So now I'm going to do the middle chunk. Ready, set, cut. Then I come down the bottom and I stretch that one back up. A little bit more. So there's my floor, wall, foundation. And I'm gonna, we'll probably cut this one down as well, but I'm gonna stop there for right now. Okay, so I have these chunks that I can work with. Now at this point you can right click and hide in view. Ooh, that looks so nice. She's so pretty. Okay, so it's don't get out of the view, stay in the view, but we can hide that box now. Now, if you need it back, you have to go down and hit the little light bulb, and then you can unhide those views if you need them. You actually can just edit them while you're in hide mode, and you can adjust these without having to go back in there and unhide them, okay? Just use the light bulb. It makes it kind of nice. Little sneaky thing there, okay? All right, we're going to start at the top. We will not move very far down today. We'll go as far as we can, but I do want to give you some time to work on getting everything else done that you need to get done, okay? So let's zoom up on this roof here, and we're going to start adding components to it. So my roof starts 18 feet above the first floor, which is fine. That means I've probably got a 8-foot ceiling on the second floor, 9-foot ceiling on the first floor. And if some of you've already got your ceiling in, if not, you can fix that here until you do. Okay, so we're gonna go through quite a few things here. And that's why you have your handouts, so you can see kind of what's going on there. First thing I want to do is on the top of this wall, on the top of every wall, you're going to have a double top plate. Now, the code, if it's a non-bearing wall, only needs one top plate. But that means you're cutting studs or ordering different lengths of studs. In Utah, they typically just put a double top plate on every wall. It just makes it easier, less math. And anytime there's less math, there's less error. And that's a big kind of a big deal. We want less error. I need you to draw 2 2x6s at the top here. Now, before you go, we're gonna not draw them. They're already made for you. Okay. Excuse me. I need a drink of water, but I got a mask on. It's so crazy. If you will, please go into your Annotate tab. Because we're going to detail this, in our Annotate tab, you have detail lines. Woohoo, we like those. These lines do print. You have components. You have insulation. Let's talk this. Insulation's fun. We'll get to that one. Go ahead and click on component. And over in the properties palette, if you click in there, go to your dimensional lumber section, and you've got a lot of lumber in there. Woohoo! Look at all that lumber. What I like to do is find the 2x6s, find a 2x6. And when you bring that over, you can use your space bar to rotate this around. Now, pay attention to where the cursor is, what corner that's in. If I'm in this configuration, I got to eyeball where that goes, and it will try and put it at the end of the line. If I rotate again, so it's in the upper right corner, I can place it right there, and then the next one right below it, and that's, oh, come on. There I have 2 of them. Oh, man. Fine, we'll do it this way. If it fights you, don't fight more than 2 punches. It's my rule. If you can't get it, just place it. Then you've always got your align tool. Make it match up. Silly thing. So you can get it in there, okay? So that's our double top plate. Then our rafter or our truss is going to sit on top of this. On the outside edge, right here behind the sheathing, is going to be blocking. This is also done with a 2x, but it's going to depend upon the pitch of your roof. Okay, your pitch of your roof is going to do it. Now, you can do it this way, or you can draw the thing out. Which would you like to do? You want to place it and modify, or do you want to just draw one? And seeing how there's so much opinion in America nowadays, we'll draw it. Ah! Okay, we're going to annotate detail line. Now grab the end point of the line, that's the stud. This is why we had that quiz, and then take it all the way up to the roof deck. The roof deck is the plywood that goes underneath your shingles. So it goes straight up. Now let's go ahead and measure that and just see what that is. Well, that's a 6" and 61 1/28. I don't think they make that. So I'd have to get a 2x8 and cut it, is what would have to happen, which is what they will do. Okay, let's do an offset. So modify, do an offset. The offset value is 1.5 inches, please. And just offset that line in towards the house. Woohoo! And then they click on that line and stretch it up to the roof deck. Now this line here does go down through. Typically we'd go through, take the time to modify this and show that this piece of line right here is a hidden line. We're not going to do that at this point. We might come back later. I now need to put in my 2x6 bottom chord. Okay, so the bottom chord is the bottom of this truss that's going on here. I have a line here. Let's go ahead and try and offset that. And the offset would be 5.5 inches. And I find out that's not a line, that is a roof. So I need to draw a line. Silly teacher, annotate, model line, and this is where it gets to be a little tricky, okay? I'm gonna go from underneath the blocking that I just did. I'm gonna draw a line out longer than, well, out to the end of where you can go. So make that a solid line across there for the most part. And then I'm gonna offset that. So it looks like that. So just a little line that comes across. It doesn't have to come all the way over, but you just want to get a line in there to come across. So this is the bottom of my truss. So I'm going to show on this truss. I'm not going to do any more than that, except clean it up. So when I do a modify here, this line needs to come over to at least over to the next line. And there can be a little overlap here. They're actually put this together with what are called gusset plates. They put a piece of metal over, they nail the crud out of it, and that's what holds your trusses together. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between this symbol and this one that's going on right here. When we placed our top plates, they have a cross, a diagonal cross that goes through each side. When there's two diagonal lines on an end piece of lumber, that means that is a continuous piece of craftsmanship, or that wood is continuous across that whole wall. What we're going to do up here is we're going to take our model line, or our detail line, and we're going to do one single diagonal. Just one diagonal. This means that it's blocking. It's broken up into smaller pieces. In the case of my roof, they're 2 foot in length, and they go between each roof truss, and they're just blocking. And this is that. Then it's have holes drilled in it and screen put on the back of it to vent that roof out. So in August, your roof here in Salt Lake can get about to 270 degrees. That will cook your turkey. Be a very dry bird when you're done, but because it's pretty hot and dry up there. But you can cook up there. And so when you see in the horror movies, people up in the attics and the mummified people, it's because they were cooked. Okay, so single line is blocking, double line is continuous. Now I do have my siding and my sheathing that did not extend up. I'm just going to add another detail line. I'm going to carry those up to the roof deck as well, just to finish out so the lining is correct. Okay, so everything goes up to that bottom. So this plywood's going to hang over the edge of my overhang, and that's how it's going to kind of come together. So that connection's good. You want to do insulation next or fascia? Insulation, good choice. Let's do something fun. Insulation lines are kind of, this is the part I miss the most about drawing on a computer. You had to draw this squiggly line by hand, and it's really kind of relaxing, okay? It's kind of fun. Go ahead and click on your insulation, and you'll find that we all probably have a different size here. How thick is yours? What's your light insulation width on your default when you click on that? 3.5, so it's set for a 2x4 wall. Mine is 1 foot for some, it's for the, I don't know why. We're going to change that to 5.5, 5.5 inches. Okay. Now, you're going to start at the middle of your top plate here, your first top plate. And as you draw, look at that fun line. Isn't it just, it's just so fun. Just kind of pull that down to the end of your view. Technically, you can take that all the way down to the whole house. What? But whoa, we can keep going. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can take it all the way down, guys. That's just slick. Just whoop, all the way down. Isn't that so pretty? That's just kind of a fun line to draw, even if it is on CAD. Okay. Whoa, that's so satisfying. Okay, like a grub. Cooked in butter. Much better. Everything's better in butter. Okay. Now, up here in my roof, we need an R42. So that's a lot of insulation. That's a lot of insulation that we got put in there. And what we want to do I'll give some data here real quick. So if we have 1 inch of rigid foam insulation, and typically in our homes, most of the homes here in Utah right now have blown in cellulose insulation, which is the recycled newspaper. We just lost our 2 big papers in Utah. The Desert News and Salt Lake Tribune both kind of went up. It's not happening anymore. They're not printing newspapers. You get 1 a week from Desert News and nothing from Salt Lake. Oh. Well, there's a giant building out by 56 West that has 4 huge print presses that are just sitting there now. Something close to like $7 million worth of equipment. Okay. Well, that means we've got a problem. What do we put for insulation now? We have other choices. You can use fiberglass. You can probably still get recycled paper, but that means we'll probably use the stuff that you use in school, like not newsprint, but copy paper. Copy paper doesn't work quite the same way because it's been processed a couple times already. So it doesn't have that fuzzy factor that newspaper print has. I'm sure we'll figure something out. Then you have your rigid insulations like your styrofoam cups that you can use. And on rigid insulation, if you have 1 inch of styrofoam, that's going to give you about a 6.2 R value. So to get to 42, you take 42 and divide it by 6. How many inches is that? How much? 7. So 7 inches of styrofoam will get you to that point. Okay, well that's good. Yay. What happens when you burn styrofoam? It shrinks and does what? What you guys have burned in fires? What have you burned? Cups. What happens when that styrofoam burns? What's going on there? Fumes. They're always black because the styrofoam's made from oil, so you get black smoke out of it. It melts and you get that drippy stuff. If you haven't done that, you need to play a styrofoam more. If that gets on you, that is a burn you will never forget. And we're just putting that in our roof. Okay, so run quickly, get out before that drips on you. So there's some problems with the idea of styrofoam in our walls. Most likely the smoke will kill you before you get out. And that's always the case with any fire. The fire doesn't kill you, it's the smoke that does. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, if we're looking to get that, so 1 inch is 6. If we look at fiberglass, you only get about 2.7 for every inch. So we're looking at more like 12 inches of fiberglass insulation. Ooh, okay, that's a lot more. If you go with cellulose, the ground up newsprint, you're getting about 3.6. That's really good. You could use stone wool. What the heck is stone wool? Steel wool. Yeah, it's steel wool. Yeah, you get about 3. So that's good. If we go to, I just clicked on the wrong button. If we go to something like polyurethane foam, you're going to get 8. Now, this is that video I showed you the other day where you spray on, you put a 1/16 of an inch spray and it expands. That's what we're talking about. So for every inch of that, you then get an 8. 8 goes into 42 how many times? Six? About 6 inches. Well, that's a whole lot better than 7 or 12. And so that's kind of what we're moving to, is more the spray-on insulations. What that means is, though, there's a little bit higher cost for that. The cost is not the material, it's the cleanup. Because that stuff's expanding, it's going to expand beyond your wall, and you have to clean that all up out of there. They use a crosscut saw. That's the old-timer saw. They just cut that wall, cut it off the wall. You can grind that up and blow it back into ceilings, for example. So overall, it's a pretty good thing. It's still poly product, so you still get the black smoke, but we do get the better R value. Okay, so that's what we're then putting up here. That's what the only way to do it. So I need a 6-inch insulation along here. What if I go more? What if I put more insulation in my roof than what's required? That's okay. So when you guys are out driving around this winter, as the snow comes, how can you tell if a roof needs more insulation?
If it has icicles.
That has icicles is a big part of it. A bigger thing to look at is if the snow's gone. If everybody else has snow and that house doesn't, they're not insulated. So approximately 70% of our heat leaves our house through the roof. So the idea of insulation is to keep it from leaving and keep it inside. So yes, icicles are bad. The thing about icicles being a secondary instead of a first is if you've got a warm day and it melts the ice and gets to the overhang, there's no insulation on your overhang. That's this part over here. It's going to freeze up again. So if we put like heat tape here and keep that water from freezing, it'll just run off your roof. You won't even know it. So that's why you have to kind of be careful when you judge on icicles. Okay, so we're going to go back to our fun little insulation line. And we're going to change that. I'm going to just put in, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to measure, isn't that a crazy idea? I'm going to measure this blocking. Yeah, I'm going to do 8 inches. I'm going to match that size because it's just easier. So the insulation, change this to 8. I'm sorry. Don't you love it when everybody knows you make a mistake because Revit yells at you? And I'm going to grab that midpoint and just pop it in right there. Because I really do want the insulation to come up. Now, just so you know, I'm a little low here. I might change that to 7.5, looks like. Yeah. I don't want it to hang down into my house. What's that?
I accidentally did 8 feet.
Oh,
Inches.
that's a good number.
My insulation.
Yeah, you're set. So you can adjust that, just edit the size. You don't want it to hang down below here because we've got to put some gypsum board on here. Okay, now you also do not want your insulation to touch the top of your roof deck. You need that air opening right here to get excess heat out. Because what happens when you add hot air to things? It's what? It expands. And I don't want my roof to blow up like a balloon in the winter. And it's happened. If we use a rubber-based roofing system, and you can see this sometimes in commercial buildings where there's no air circulation, they just keep filling with hotter and hotter air, and they can explode. It's kind of fun. But I want a little bit of airflow up here, so it comes out and vents out. Now I've got the line that I did for my bottom cord. I'm going to do another offset. And that offset's going to be a 1/2 inch for gypsum board. Now I got to find the line. And just pull that down. So I get this little line that comes down. And I need to edit that line so that it ends at the gypsum board of my wall. Now, which goes up first, the wall or the ceiling? When you put drip board up, doesn't matter. Typically, they'll put the ceiling up first because the wall, if the wall comes over that, so go this way, then the wall board can hide rough edges. So it's just a way to make it a little cleaner. It doesn't matter which way, but if the wall board's up first, they can't just say, oh, look, this room's 10 feet wide. They have to deduct the sides of the gypsum board off to cut. And so it just makes it a little cleaner. Hopefully and usually a gypsum board crew knows what they're doing. So when in doubt, leave the corner, okay? It's no big deal, they'll get it. Okay, so still on our roof. We're gonna do the fascia board out here next. That's another drawn element. So we have this from the point of the wall forward, this part of the truss, or the rafter for that matter, is called the tail. So it's the tail of the truss or the tail of the rafter, and that just sticks out here. Well, we don't want that to be floppy dopping around, so we need to stiffen that up, and we want to cover the ends of this. So to cover it up, we're going to take our dimension line. I'm going to go from the top, actually this is going to go from the sheathing, below the sheathing line, so that comes straight down. And watch your size on this. So I'm at 4 inches and 157 to, I don't know what that means. I'm going to come to a real number. Oops. So I'm going to drop this down 5.5 inches for my fascia. So that's going to come down below my roof line here. Okay. Just going to drop that down. And we're going to do an offset. Again, now it's be back to 1.5 inches. And go in towards the house. Because you've got your overhang. If you go out, you're making your overhang larger. And so we don't want to change the profile. We want to keep that the same. And then we're going to have this new line. We're going to take a dimension line. Make sure it's a dimension line you're using. And then bring a line across the bottom. This modified the offset line is going to go straight up to the roof deck again. Is this going to be a single diagonal or a double diagonal? It's a double. We're going to wrap the whole perimeter of the house with this fascia board. So that's going to be a diagonal going both directions, like so. And that would go around the whole house. Then if we were doing a gutter, it would hang right here. Oh, you talk about being late. Hold on, just 1 second. Mr. Boss? Oh, lucky you. Okay. The Dennis Antarctic Circle. I imagine that cold shake felt really good on that new cavity. Okay, glad you're here, man. All right. Now, we have one last line to do on this overhang. And it's called the soffit. And yes, we've got some extra lines hanging out here. And we'll get to where you clean those up a little bit later. Because I do want to get to where you have, my goal is you get an hour to work on your house today. So that's my goal. Okay. Underneath the overhang is what's called the soffit. Now the soffit is usually out of aluminum. It can be out of plywood. Every 4th panel needs to be vented because we've got airflow coming through here that we want to come and then get out of the house. There are 2 ways you can show your soffit. One is to follow the rake of the roof. To do that, and I'll show you both, and then you can decide which one you want. I'm going to do my dimension line, my detail line. I'm going to trace the bottom of my truss line, and I'm going to take it out longer than well, let's go right there. I'm going to offset that, and I'm going to offset it 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to connect that on both sides here. So face the wall and up to the fascia board. So that would be following the same profile. So it has, you look up, it's at a slope. That's option 1. Okay. And that's called an open cornice. An open cornice. So airflow all along there. The other option you have is a boxed cornice. So I'm going to take both these lines out. A boxed cornice is going to look like this. Do detail line. here. It's going to come from basically this point straight across. Then offset that down. And that would be my soffit, so it'd be a flat ceiling. If you want to put lights in your overhang, usually it's a boxed cornice where it's closed off. If you aren't going to put lights up in there, you don't care, then do an open cornice. Either one's fine. You still have to vent them out. And because these are out of aluminum, usually, there are going to be little clips on the sides here to hold those in place. You can draw them, but at the scale we're at, it's not the matter. What scale is your drawing at anyway? You guys at a 1/4 inch?
That's half.
1/2? Okay. So a wall detail is typically either a 1/2 inch to a foot or 3/4 of an inch to a foot. A 1/2 inch is going to be fine for what we're looking at here. So, okay. And so if you're at a 1/2 inch, you're not going to see these clips. They're going to be really small. They look like little black smudges. So you call it out, say aluminum soffit. When they buy the soffit material, it comes with the clips and everything's good. Okay. So your choice on how you want to do that detail. You would then move into dimensioning. Way to go. Here we go now. More dimensions. And I would dimension my overhang. Oh, I'm only 1'2". Cuckoo, cuckoo. Okay. That's probably the way it is. So I'll dimension my overhang. We've got a couple things here. If you want to do your roof slope, you can do that in your dimension. So where's that at? Okay, so to put your slope on your roof, you're in your modified. Here's your dimension tool, or it's here as well in the dimensioning. Find this spot slope option. The default is, well, what is your default? You have a different one set up, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, it's just tracking, so it's like that. Woohoo. Or if you go to edit type, you can change, is that the right place? Oh, I forget where I'm at. You have to change it, where does it change it? Right here, the arrow, change it to the triangle. The more traditional is this method, where it's the triangle. So you have your 6 and 12 slope. You do need to show that at least here on the roof detail once, and on one of your elevations, you'll have to show this as well, or anytime you change it. So this is the traditional way, that you can use the track. If you want to use the arrow, you can do that. It's just not as common, okay? And last thing we're gonna do, ooh, I'm then just so good on time. See how these kind of just drop? That's kind of boring. Just kind of drops and then void. What that looks like is, oh, someone whitewashed it with whiteout, okay? Makes it hard to see what's really going on there. If you go into your annotate and go to component, in your templates, and that you won't find this if you've got the standalone Revit out of the box, you need to find and build one of these. Up at the very top, there's a break line. Okay, so the break line makes it a little finished, a little more polished. So I'm going to click on the break line and bring that over. You won't see a thing until you get near your part. I'm going to put it up here a little bit. Now, I put this in. It's actually upside down because you can rotate these as well. So I want to show you what I've done. It's got a void on here that lets you change and highlight and remove things. I'm going to rotate this one around just so you know you can do that. Oh, that was bad. If you rotate straight. Don't rotate in a weird way. We go click and click. Okay. Now I can move this down to the bottom. And when I click it, it's just a little cleaner. You can kind of shift that where you need it to be. So just kind of cleans things up a little bit. And what you do is this is saying, hey, this is a full-size drawing, but I'm not showing you everything. I'm taking out some information that doesn't need to be here, usually empty wall space, and so you can see it. I would also do one here as well. I'll do it again. So I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to turn that, I'm going to place it. And once it's placed, Then I'm gonna go in and adjust it. So I'm gonna move this forward, stretch this up, stretch that down, maybe adjust and take off a little bit more of this line work that I don't want to see. A lot more of the line work I don't want to see. Whoops. What did I do? Just kind of move that out. This is my float line here, so we're good. Okay, so I can just kind of, and you can, if you want to be a little different, there's these other arrows. You can kind of make them steeper, shift them a little bit. You know, you can do what you need to do there. Okay, they just kind of make it look a little cleaner. We're going to leave this where it is right now. It is now 12:30. Woohoo! First hour, well, more than an hour. I don't know, whatever time it is. I know a lot of you have a lot of things to work on, a lot of little things here and there. We'll keep moving forward. I'm going to give you this rest of this hour now, the next hour, to just work. Ask questions if you need them. By all means, if we need help at home, let me know. How many of you brought laptops back today? Did anybody bring any back? Did anybody check any out? Were any there to check out? Was there still some down there? Okay. So those that are on dismissal, there's a laptop, at least a laptop. Call the office here at the GTI first, so you don't make a trip all the way in and then get disappointed. If you call in, they'll put it in your name and reserve it for you. We're looking just as fast as we can to get everything working for you guys. So, okay, questions, concerns, privileges, successes? Okay, we're going to lab time now. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.